I still remember the exact moment my mother-in-law told me I was infertile. I was standing in her living room holding a glass of iced tea, and my wife Jenna stood right beside her mother Linda. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. What hurt even more was watching Jenna say absolutely nothing to defend me. She just looked down at the floor, her silence louder than any accusation. That moment shattered something inside me, but I had no idea it was only the beginning of a nightmare that would completely change my life. Before I continue with what happened next, I want to ask you something. If you are listening to this story right now, please drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from. And if you have ever been falsely accused or betrayed by people you trusted, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Because what I am about to share with you will show you exactly why I have zero regrets about the choices I made. The path ahead was painful, but it led me to a happiness I never thought possible. Let me take you back to how everything started. I met Jenna during our college years. She was studying marketing at Portland State University, and I was in the engineering program. We met at a campus coffee shop where she was working part-time. I remember her bright smile and the way she laughed at my terrible jokes about thermodynamics. We dated for 3 years before I proposed to her on a hiking trail overlooking the Columbia River Gorge. She said yes without hesitation, and I thought I had found my forever. Our wedding was small and intimate, held at a countryside farm venue in June. The sun was shining, wildflowers were blooming everywhere, and I felt like the luckiest man alive. Jenna looked beautiful in her simple white dress, and when we exchanged vows, I truly believed we would face everything together. Our early marriage was everything I hoped it would be. We rented a comfortable 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Portland. Friday nights were for cooking together, trying new recipes we found online. Weekends meant exploring hiking trails or visiting local farmers markets. Jenna worked at a mid-sized advertising agency, and I had landed a solid position as an engineer at a technology company. We were building a life together one day at a time, and everything felt right. But about 2 years into our marriage, things began to shift. It started during Thanksgiving dinner at Linda's house. We were all sitting around the table, passing dishes of turkey and mashed potatoes when Linda casually asked when we were planning to give her grandchildren. I laughed it off, saying we wanted to focus on our careers first and enjoy being just the two of us for a while longer. Jenna agreed with me, then squeezing my hand under the table. Linda smiled, but I noticed something cold in her eyes. She did not push further that evening, but it would not be the last time she brought it up. The phone calls started shortly after that Thanksgiving. Every week, sometimes twice a week, Linda would call Jenna. I would hear Jenna on the phone, her voice getting tighter and more stressed. When I asked what was wrong, she would brush it off, saying her mother was just being her usual self. But I could see the tension building in Jenna's shoulders, the way she started avoiding my eyes when the topic of children came up. The pressure was getting to her, and instead of us facing it together, I felt her pulling away from me and closer to her mother. After about 6 months of this mounting pressure, Jenna came to me one evening and said maybe we should start trying for a baby. I could see the anxiety in her face, and I knew this was not really what she wanted, but what her mother wanted. Still, I loved my wife, and I thought maybe having a child would bring us closer together again. So we started trying. Month after month passed with no success. Each negative pregnancy test seemed to make Jenna more withdrawn and Linda more vocal about her disappointment. When a full year had gone by with no pregnancy, Linda insisted we both get tested. I agreed, thinking it would ease everyone's mind and maybe we would get some helpful medical advice. We went to a local hospital for comprehensive fertility testing. The process was uncomfortable and somewhat embarrassing, but I went through with it because I wanted answers just as much as everyone else did. The results came back within 2 weeks. Jenna was completely healthy with no fertility issues whatsoever. My results showed that my sperm count was lower than the average range, but the doctor was very clear about something important. He told us that while my numbers were below average, I was not infertile. He explained that many men with similar counts went on to father children naturally. He recommended some lifestyle changes, reducing stress, taking specific vitamins and supplements, exercising regularly, and eating a healthier diet. He said with time and these improvements, our chances of conceiving would increase significantly. I left that appointment feeling a mix of embarrassment and determination. I was ready to do whatever it took to improve the situation. What I did not know was that this medical information would become a weapon used against me. Jenna told her mother about the test results despite my request that we keep this private between us. I wanted time to work on improving my health without outside pressure, but that choice was taken away from me. Within days of Linda finding out, my phone rang. It was her, and her voice was ice cold. She told me that I was not a complete man, that I had deceived her daughter by marrying her when I could not give her children. I tried to explain what the doctor actually said, that I was not infertile, that there was still hope, but she cut me off. She said I was making excuses, and that Jenna deserved better than a defective husband. I felt my hands shaking as I held the phone. No one had ever spoken to me like that before. I wanted to defend myself, to yell back, but I also did not want to create more problems for Jenna. So I stayed calm and told Linda that this was between Jenna and me, and we would handle it together. She laughed bitterly and hung up. When I told Jenna about the phone call that evening, expecting her to be angry at her mother for overstepping, she instead said that her mother was just worried and I should not take it personally. That response hurt more than Linda's insults. The next family dinner at Linda's house was something I will never forget. It was a Sunday afternoon gathering. Linda had invited not just Jenna and me, but also Jenna's younger sister Sarah and her husband, plus Linda's sister and brother-in-law. We were all sitting in the dining room when Linda suddenly announced to everyone at the table that Jenna and I were having trouble conceiving because of my medical issues. She said it loud enough for everyone to hear, describing me as unable to fulfill my basic duty as a husband. The room went silent. I felt every pair of eyes turned toward me. My face burned with humiliation. I looked at Jenna, waiting for her to tell her mother to stop, to defend me, to do anything. But she just sat there, staring at her plate, her face red but her mouth closed. Sarah looked at me with genuine sympathy in her eyes, and I could tell she was uncomfortable with what was happening, but she did not speak up either. I stood up from the table, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I told Linda that she had no right to discuss my private medical information with anyone, and that what she was doing was cruel and wrong. She just smiled at me with this cold, satisfied look and said that the truth always comes out eventually. I walked out of that house and sat in my car for 20 minutes before Jenna finally came out. When she got in the car, I expected an apology. Instead, she told me I had embarrassed her by making a scene. I could not believe what I was hearing. I had been publicly humiliated, and somehow I was the one in the wrong. The drive home was silent. That night, she slept on the couch. Something fundamental had broken between us, and I started to realize that my wife was siding with her mother against me. The woman I had married, the woman who promised to stand by me, was letting her mother tear me apart, and she was helping. Over the next few months, Jenna became a stranger. She spent more and more time at her mother's house. Some evenings, she would not come home until late at night, offering no explanation. I tried to talk to her to fix whatever was broken between us, but she shut me out completely. I started noticing her texting constantly, and when I asked who she was talking to, she would snap at me to mind my own business. One day, while she was in the shower, her phone was on the kitchen counter, and a message from Linda popped up on the screen. It said something about talking to a good divorce lawyer Linda knew. My heart dropped into my stomach. I did everything I could to improve my health, like the doctor recommended. I joined a gym and started working out 5 days a week. I completely changed my diet, cutting out junk food and alcohol. I took every vitamin and supplement the doctor suggested. I did this not just for the possibility of having children, but to prove to myself that I was taking control of my life. But Jenna noticed none of it. When I tried to tell her about the positive changes I was making, she would roll her eyes and say something cutting like trying does not change reality. Her words were like knives, each one cutting deeper than the last. Then came the night that destroyed everything. I had left work early because I was not feeling well. I came home around 4 in the afternoon and I heard Jenna talking on the phone in our bedroom. The door was slightly open and her voice carried into the hallway. I stopped and listened, and what I heard made my blood run cold. She was talking to one of her friends, and she said that she had been telling everyone that I was completely infertile. She said nobody would blame her for divorcing a man who could not give her children. Then she laughed and said that her mother was helping her find a good lawyer, and she was planning to take the apartment and half of everything I owned. She said she just needed a few more weeks to get everything in order, and then she would file for divorce. I stood frozen in that hallway, unable to process what I was hearing. This was not a stranger. This was my wife, the woman I loved, the woman I had built a life with. She was not just planning to leave me. She was planning to destroy my reputation and take everything from me. I felt something inside me shut down like a switch being flipped. The hurt was so intense it almost felt like nothing at all, just a vast emptiness where my heart used to be. I pushed the bedroom door open and walked in. Jenna's face went white when she saw me. She quickly ended the phone call, stammering something about needing to call her friend back later. I stood there looking at her, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt completely calm. I asked her if what I just heard was true. She tried to deny it at first, saying I had misunderstood, but I repeated her exact words back to her. There was nowhere for her to hide. The mask dropped. She stopped pretending. She looked at me with this cold, hard expression and said that yes, everything I heard was true. She said I deserved this because a man who could not give her children was not worth staying with. She said her mother had opened her eyes to the fact that she had married beneath her standards. She told me that Linda had already spread the word to their entire family and most of their social circle that I was infertile and that I had trapped Jenna in a childless marriage. My reputation was already ruined, she said, so I might as well accept the divorce gracefully. I did not yell. I did not cry. I did not beg her to reconsider. Instead, I looked at this woman who had become a complete stranger to me and said 5 words. I will give you that divorce. Then I turned around and walked out of the bedroom. I grabbed my laptop, my phone charger, and a bag of clothes. I left the apartment and drove straight to my best friend's house. He let me stay in his guest room without asking any questions. That night, I contacted a divorce lawyer. The next morning, I had my first meeting with my attorney. I told him everything, and he listened carefully. He advised me that because we had no children and had been married for less than 5 years, the divorce would be relatively straightforward. Assets would be divided, but I had kept good records of what I had contributed financially to our marriage, including the down payment for furniture and most of the shared expenses. I also told him about the phone conversation I had overheard. In our state, recording conversations without consent was complicated, but my testimony about what I heard could still be useful, especially regarding her planning to make false claims about my medical condition. My lawyer moved fast. Within 3 days, Jenna was served with divorce papers. I heard from Sarah later that Jenna and Linda were shocked. They had expected me to fight for the marriage, to beg and plead. They thought they had more time to prepare their strategy. Instead, I had taken control of the situation completely. My lawyer made it clear that any false statements about my medical condition would result in legal action for defamation. That threat alone was enough to make Linda back down from some of her more aggressive plans. The divorce process took 3 months. 3 months of paperwork, negotiations, and tense emails through our lawyers. I moved out permanently and found a small 1-bedroom apartment closer to my work. I threw myself into my job, working longer hours, taking on extra projects. My coworkers noticed I seemed different, quieter, more focused. I did not tell many people what was happening. I did not want pity or sympathy. I just wanted to move forward. During this time, something unexpected happened. I ran into Diane at a coffee shop downtown. Diane was Jenna's cousin, the daughter of Jenna's father's younger brother. She had always been on the periphery of family gatherings, and I had only met her a handful of times. She was a few years younger than Jenna, working as a nurse at a hospital across town. I remembered her as quiet and kind, someone who always seemed a bit uncomfortable at the loud, chaotic family events Linda hosted. She approached me hesitantly and asked if we could talk. We sat down at a small table near the window. Diane told me that Sarah had explained what really happened, the truth about the medical results, the lies Linda and Jenna had spread, and the cruel way they had treated me. Diane said she was ashamed to be related to them. She apologized on behalf of the family, even though she had done nothing wrong herself. Her kindness caught me off guard. I had grown so used to cruelty and betrayal that simple human decency felt almost foreign. We talked for over an hour. She told me about her work at the hospital, the challenges of being a nurse, the patients she cared about. I told her about my engineering projects, my plans to take a solo hiking trip once the divorce was finalized. It was the first real conversation I had with anyone in months where I did not feel judged or pitied. When we finally said goodbye, she asked if she could give me her phone number just in case I ever needed someone to talk to. I saved it in my phone, not really expecting to use it, but grateful nonetheless. A week later, I texted her, just a simple message asking how her day was. She responded quickly, and we started texting back and forth regularly. It was casual at first, just friendly conversation, but I found myself looking forward to her messages. She had a way of making me laugh, something I had not done genuinely in a very long time. We started meeting for coffee every couple of weeks. She never asked invasive questions about the divorce. She just listened when I wanted to talk and distracted me with funny stories from the hospital when I needed to think about something else. 6 months after my divorce was finalized, Diane and I went on what could only be called a real date. We had dinner at a small Italian restaurant, and afterward we walked along the waterfront. The evening air was cool and the city lights reflected off the river. She told me about a difficult patient she had lost that week, and I saw tears in her eyes. I reached out and held her hand, and she did not pull away. That night I realized I was developing real feelings for her. It terrified me and excited me at the same time. We took things slowly. Both of us were cautious. Diane knew my history, knew how badly I had been hurt, and she never pushed me to move faster than I was ready. Our relationship grew naturally, built on friendship and genuine respect. She was everything Jenna was not. She was supportive without being controlling. She listened without judging. She encouraged me to pursue my interests and goals. With Diane, I felt like myself again, maybe even a better version of myself. 1 year after we started dating, I took Diane back to that same hiking trail where I had proposed to Jenna years before. But this time, everything was different. This time, I was with someone who truly loved me for who I was. I got down on one knee and asked Diane to marry me. She cried and said yes immediately. We decided on a small beach wedding, just close friends and family who actually cared about us. Linda and Jenna were obviously not invited. We did not send announcements. We did not make a big social media post. We just quietly celebrated with people who mattered. The wedding was beautiful in its simplicity. The sand was warm under our feet. The ocean breeze carried the smell of salt water, and Diane looked absolutely radiant in a light blue dress. When we exchanged vows, I meant every single word. This time, I knew I was marrying my true partner, someone who would stand beside me no matter what challenges came our way. Our honeymoon was a week-long road trip up the coast, staying in small bed and breakfasts, exploring tide pools and forests. It was perfect. 6 months into our marriage, Diane came home from work with a strange look on her face. She sat me down on the couch and told me she had something to tell me. My heart started racing, worried something was wrong. Then she smiled, pulled out a pregnancy test from her purse, and showed me the positive result. I stared at that little stick with 2 pink lines, unable to process what I was seeing. I was going to be a father. All those cruel words from Linda, all those lies about me being infertile, all that pain and humiliation, and here was proof that none of it was true. We went to the doctor together for the first ultrasound. I held Diane's hand as the technician moved the wand across her belly. Then the technician paused, looked more closely at the screen, and smiled. She turned the monitor toward us and said, "Congratulations, you are having twins." 2 babies. 2 little heartbeats flickering on that screen. I felt tears streaming down my face. Diane was crying too, squeezing my hand so tight. The doctor confirmed what my original fertility specialist had told me years ago. My condition had never been severe. With time-reduced stress and a healthy lifestyle, conception was absolutely possible. And here was the proof: not just 1 baby, but 2. The twins were born on a bright morning in early spring. 2 healthy baby boys we named Ethan and Lucas. Holding them for the first time, feeling their tiny fingers wrap around mine, I broke down completely. These were not tears of sadness or pain. These were tears of pure, overwhelming joy. I had never felt love like this before. So intense, it almost hurt. Diane watched me with those babies, and I saw such tenderness in her eyes. She told me I was going to be an amazing father, and I believed her. Our life transformed completely. We moved out of our small apartment and bought a modest house in the suburbs, with a backyard where the boys could eventually play. Diane cut back to part-time hours at the hospital so she could spend more time with Ethan and Lucas. I got a promotion at work, which helped financially, and gave me more flexible hours. Weekends became about diaper changes, feedings, and watching our sons discover the world around them. Every milestone, every smile, every tiny accomplishment filled me with pride and gratitude. I found myself thinking less and less about Jenna and Linda. They had become irrelevant to my happiness. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Jenna had found out about my remarriage and the twins through Sarah. Apparently, she had tried to reach out to me several times, sending messages through social media that I never opened. Linda had also attempted to contact me, claiming they had made a mistake and wanted to apologize. But I felt no desire to respond. I was not interested in their apologies or their regrets. I had moved on to a life filled with real love and genuine happiness. Diane sometimes asked me if I felt angry when I thought about what they did. I told her honestly that I did not feel anger anymore. I felt grateful. If Jenna had not shown her true colors, if Linda had not been so cruel, I might have stayed in that toxic marriage for years trying to fix something that was fundamentally broken. Their betrayal had freed me to find Diane, to build this beautiful life, to become a father to Ethan and Lucas. In a strange way, they had given me the greatest gift by showing me exactly what I did not want and pushing me toward what I did want. Jenna remained single as far as I knew. I heard rumors that her relationship with Linda had become strained. Apparently, other family members had started blaming Linda for ruining Jenna's marriage and spreading lies. There was some poetic justice in that, but I did not take pleasure in their unhappiness. I simply felt nothing toward them. They were part of a past life that no longer touched me. My present and future were with Diane and our boys, and that was all that mattered. On the twins' first birthday, we had a small party in our backyard. Close friends came over along with Diane's parents and siblings, who had welcomed me into their family with open arms. We set up a kiddie pool and let Ethan and Lucas splash around while we grilled burgers and hot dogs. I stood there watching Diane help the boys play in the water, their laughter filling the air, and I felt this profound sense of peace. This was what family was supposed to feel like. This was what love was supposed to look like. No pressure, no judgment, no cruelty. Just acceptance, support, and genuine care for each other. As the sun started to set and our guests began leaving, I sat on the porch steps holding Lucas while Diane held Ethan. Both boys were tired from the excitement, their eyes getting heavy. Diane leaned her head against my shoulder and said she could not imagine life any other way. I kissed the top of her head and told her I felt exactly the same. In that moment, I understood something profound. The struggles I had endured, the pain I had suffered, had all been necessary to bring me to this exact place. I would not change a single thing because every hardship had led me here, to this family, to this love, to this life. I learned that a man's worth is not determined by a medical test or someone else's opinion. It is determined by how he treats people, how he faces adversity, how he chooses to live his life even when things get difficult. Jenna and Linda thought they could define me by pointing out what they perceived as my weakness. They thought they could break me down and make me feel less than whole. But they were wrong. I am a father to two beautiful boys. I am a husband to an incredible woman who loves me unconditionally. I am a complete man not because of my biology, but because of my character, my choices, and my capacity to love. If you are in a relationship where you are constantly made to feel inadequate, where your worth is questioned, where you are not valued for who you truly are, please hear this. You deserve better. You deserve someone who sees your value, who stands beside you during hard times, who builds you up instead of tearing you down. And sometimes the bravest and best thing you can do is walk away from people who refuse to appreciate you. Because on the other side of that pain, there might be a happiness you never imagined possible. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where family members turned against you or spread lies about you? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below because your experience might help someone else going through something similar. If this story resonated with you or gave you hope, please hit that like button and share this video with anyone who might need to hear it. And do not forget to subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about overcoming betrayal and finding happiness again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it reminded you that no matter how dark things seem, there is always a chance for a better tomorrow. Take care of yourselves, and remember that you are worth so much more than anyone's limited perspective of you.